Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to our next topic, protecting your parents from scams and new friends out there. This is kind of an ugly one. My name is Francisco Sirvent, founder and attorney at Keystone Law Firm. Um, Before we dive into the topic, I do want to make sure everybody knows, first, this is being recorded because we do share these publicly on our YouTube channel when we're done. They get posted about a week later. If you haven't caught any of the prior topics, you're welcome to go check those out. It's easy to find, youtube.com/Keystone Law Firm, and you'll see dozens and dozens of topics and ideas and concepts and things that should hopefully help you uh, know how to do things and figure things out that otherwise can be pretty complicated sometimes. So go check that out on our YouTube channel for any prior ones. You're welcome to share those with friends. If you see something relevant, you end up talking about something, you go, oh, they did a webinar on this, and they actually shared some good information. Maybe you're welcome to share those. We also do post our upcoming topics on our website at keystonelawfirm.com/events. They are all free to join, just like this one is. The topics are listed. The registration links are right there, so you can just click and sign up, and you'll get an invitation to the specific link for each new webinar. So, and then in respect to we're going to have a little bit of time for questions at the end. This is not necessarily a legal topic, though there's going to be, I'm going to give you some ideas on how your things you can do legally to protect yourself or your parents. But because I'm gonna offer some time for questions and answers, and because this is being recorded, if you do ask questions, just know it's going onto the recording and it'll be posted on YouTube. So keep your questions vague, keep them general, keep them anonymous as much as you can. And that way everybody gets the benefit of your question and my answer. Now, and then of course, because we are lawyers and because we are advisors, we do start off with a quick disclosure. Everything we share on these webinars is not legal, financial, or tax advice. This is general information of an educational nature. So I hope it's helpful, but please, if you do need professional advice about what to do with your specific situation, sit down with an advisor and get the details out about your specific situation. You know, what do we do with this specific unique thing? And then make decisions based on that. So hopefully that gives you the disclosure that we all need. The reality with where all this fraud stuff is going, it is just exploding now that AI has come into our world, and we are all experiencing the effects of that. And I'm sure a lot of you have had some experience with things like that. But what that's allowing, what it's giving all these scammers the ability to do is expand their reach significantly. So instead of having to manually type out messages or manually research one of their potential victims, or a lot of things that had to be done manually before, they can now just have AI do it and just increase the volume of these attempted scams. Arizona is actually one of the highest states in the country for reported number of fraud attempts, and last numbers were in 2024 over 100,000 attempts, and average loss is over $80,000. And it's increasing, and this was a couple years ago, so AI was just barely coming on the scene, but even back then it was increasing 33% year over year. You really do need to know this stuff. You really do need to know the most foundational things to do to protect your parents, which you can obviously use to protect yourself from these kinds of things. They are, I'll say, simple. They're not always easy if you kind of can understand the difference. It's like, right, like eating healthy and working out is going to make you a healthier person. It's very simple, but it's not so easy to do every day. Things happen, we get distracted, and then we do something, and consequences can be severe. So I'm going to break this down into how this stuff really impacts people. How does it come about? I'm going to start with just this one case study. This wasn't even an elderly person who was, vulnerable and things like this. Was a lady who was running her own business, and she was just hustling and saving in order to expand her business. And she just, that's all she was doing. She's just kind of grinding away, right? She's a professional hairstylist in Chicago, and some federal briefing released her study with her consent. Obviously, she's sitting there working with a client, and her phone rings. Like any small business owner, she's got to answer the phone. She answers the phone, and man on the line saying, "This is the fraud department at Bank of America, where she had her bank accounts, and that there's suspicious activity on her account." Her antenna goes up, right? So she gets her Bank of America card out, looks on the back of the card because that has the official Bank of America phone number, looks at the caller ID of who's calling her right now, and it's the number from Bank of America. Okay, so it's Bank of America calling. So she says, "Okay, so what's going on?" They said, "Well, there's a hacker who's trying to access your account right now, and they're attempting to drain the $20,000 you have in this account. We need to move it immediately so that they don't get access to it." You imagine the emotional turmoil that just explodes. She's trying to take care of this client. She gets this fraud call from Bank of America, and she's going, "Oh my gosh, this is the savings I've been building to try to expand." And he says, "The only way we can make it secure is for you to log into your app and wire this money to a secure account. I'm going to give you the numbers for it." And so she quickly gets on, she initiates the wire, she hits submit. She goes, "Okay, good, my money's safe." Except for it wasn't Bank of America, and the account number they gave her was not her account. It was not a secure account. It was an account who knows where. Poof. Once you initiate a wire, the money's gone. The bank can't pull it back. This is one example of spoofing. Okay, spoofing is just basically saying impersonating, so they can make it look like that caller ID is somebody else. And when you see the caller ID coming in, we use that a lot of times to recognize who's calling us. I mean, if they can fake Bank of America's phone number, they can fake a family member's phone number, a friend's phone number, a grandchild's phone number, your law firm's phone number. They can fake it looking like it's coming from anybody's phone number that they want. So watch out for these kinds of things. This is just an example, one of a million. So when you break these things down into thinking about how to protect yourself, they generally think about it in two different categories. Okay, there's strangers that you don't know, and then of course there's people you do know. So when we break it down into those two, there are different types of things to do to protect yourself. Not the first time, but one of the most horrible examples of a stranger scam that happened to somebody I know personally was people of all ages use online apps to start to find, to do dating, right? I mean, single people, I talk to a lot of clients of all ages, and that's a very common thing now, right? Is to use an online app to start dating. And that's what happened. It was a long distance relationship. They had phone calls and video calls, and just it turned into a long distance online romantic relationship. This person didn't sound like they were out of the country, and with some indication that this wasn't somebody just around the corner, down the street, in the next state. And the romantic relationship just continued for a while, many, many, many months, and just got really, really connected to this person. And the other person all of a sudden came up and said, "Oh my gosh, I've got this amazing opportunity. I'm going to put some money in this thing. Like, this is amazing." And just kept talking about what a great opportunity it was and put money in. And oh my gosh, I made some money. And oh my gosh, I made a little bit more. And just kind of kept bragging about it. Well, eventually, the invitation was either made or the person I know asked, "Hey, can I put some money in that too?" And some money started to flow in that direction. And then it was, well, geez, this relationship is developing, and why don't we do a joint, investment? And so they did, and turned out to be something kind of complex that had to do with some of the cryptocurrency things that were really going kind of crazy over the last few years. And then it came time to like get the money out of the investment. And in order to get the money out, there were these really bizarre hurdles to have to verify your identity and things like that. And, one of the ways to verify your identity was to prove that your bank account was your bank account by a small deposit, and then that would prove it. But then it, required another deposit, another deposit, another deposit. And even with all of the due diligence of researching the investment and their background and their registrations and all these things and their contracts, etc., it was sort of so good. How could I not do it? And just kept flowing money into it because my gosh, it would even get statements saying like your investment is growing and blah 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 blah. And eventually got over $1 million from this person. And after finally thinking, I just need this money back because I need this money back, and going through all of the attempts to try to get the money back, realized this money's never coming back. And it was just a complete scam of some stranger who started out with a very compelling psychological connection with this person and spending months building that connection before ever talking about money. So strangers are very sophisticated in this. These are highly sophisticated individuals or just straight up AI tools that pretend to be somebody else. They can come through any mode of communication, a dating app, a random text message, an email, a message on Facebook or any of the social media sites, a direct message. Any of those things can be considered in that stranger category. The insider category are people people you've met or family face to face. So, right, they're individuals. Like we know they're human, we know they're here, they're with you locally, and they are insiders. Okay. And they're going to use the inside relationship to take advantage of somebody. Um, this, we've seen this happen. One of my very, very first cases that I actually helped fight for this person's rights was a niece. The elderly person had a niece who everybody, move in to help take care of the elderly family member, and was there for, a few years helping take care of her until she passed away. And then everybody realized and finally learned that all of the elderly person's money and real estate were slowly and then very quickly at the end being transferred into this niece's name. I mean, we're talking almost $1 million, and poof, and then she, of course, liquidates everything and runs from the state, flees the state, filing the lawsuits, trying to collect the money, all of that, yeah, can be done, but it's not what you want to do. Another example was somebody who A hired caregiver was moved into the home to take care of a parent, and unfortunately, the rest of the family was out of state, and so they weren't there day to day to see what was happening. But at some point, it was realized that the caregiver had taken the parent to the bank, and at the bank, the parent opened a new account because the original accounts were all known by the family, but they opened a new account and transferred over, multiple six figures of their money into the new account. And then the caregiver drove the parent to a different bank and opened another account joint in her name. So with the parent and the caregiver jointly, and of course it's presented as this will help me make it easier to deal with paying your bills and dealing with the doctors and all this kind of stuff. It's easy to convey some type of value why they should do it. And that joint account was opened, and then all that money from the new account at the old bank was moved over into that joint account. And then, of course, when he passed away, the money was transferred out to another account, bounced around, split apart, and this person has vanished. So these are real threats. They are big dollar risks. And unfortunately, the number of times that the banks or financial institutions stop these things from happening because there's some suspicion around what's happening isn't 100%. It just isn't. If somebody presents at the bank without any vulnerabilities and they say, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this, the bank doesn't have any grounds to say no. So there's just risk there. As a great example, as if I needed more examples, I received a text message this morning myself, and this is the actual text message. And it's from somebody I don't know. Hi, I'm your dedicated customer service representative, blah, 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 blah. Please contact me via Telegram with their contact information, soliciting nothing more than me to start a friendly relationship. Anytime you get a text message from a number you don't recognize or you've never received text messages from them before, your spidey senses need to go up. You need to be suspicious about it. And the thing about all of these is they're usually going to be from somebody that you don't recognize, from some phone number or some weird address, right? I don't know this address. And it's the first text message I've ever received from this person, whoever it is. When it's the first text message and you weren't expecting the type of message being sent, your radar needs to go up. And then, of course, why would they be telling me to contact them via some other communication tool? Like, here, you got me on this text message. Why wouldn't we just interact here? They're trying to move me over to Telegram, which is an encrypted, and it's very hard to trace and things like that. Of course, that's where they want me to go communicate with them. With all of these text messages, when you don't expect the communication, when it's from somebody you don't know, when it's the first text message, it's unsolicited, they're asking you or telling you about things you have no idea what they're talking about, it is almost certainly spam or an attempt at a scam. And at least on iPhones, you have the option to click this little button down below that says report. I do it every time. Click report, a little thing pops up, says, do you want to report this and delete it? And yep, I do. And I go on with my day. Never, ever, 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 ever on unsolicited text messages like this should you click a link, right? They say, hey, click here to do whatever. Don't click it. It's number one, it may end up downloading a virus to your phone. And number two, it's a scam. That link in and of itself might take you to something that looks legit, that looks like what you're supposed to have. I got one that I wish I would have kept probably about 6 months ago from Verizon, and it looked absolutely legitimate. And it said you have some rewards points in your account that are going to expire. Do you want to use them? And I was like, oh, yeah, of course. I clicked the link. I go, the website, it's a Verizon website, looks totally legit. Here's your rewards points and what prizes you can pick or exchange for them, blah, 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 blah. All you need to do is enter your name and email. And I'm going, wait a minute. If I'm already on Verizon's website, they already have my information. Why is it asking me to enter it again? And something about the page looked a little bit off. And so I started just looking now with my spider senses up. Is this really their legitimate website? So I went back to the Verizon website I know about. I logged in and I started looking around. Are there even rewards points for Verizon? And I'm looking around. I can't find anything about rewards points. I'm going, oh my gosh, I fell for it. Went back to my phone. I clicked the report spam button and went on with my life. What I noticed was, though it looked like it was from Verizon, I had never received a text message from that specific phone number before, because I get text message reminders about my bill or when my bill is paid, but all the historical messages are there. This one was the first message, and I just went, it almost got me. So just if it's the first text message you get from somebody, be very, very, very suspicious. And then, of course, we all get all kinds of emails that are junk, that are spam, and that are attempting to scam you. These are just a couple I've gotten the last couple of days, and they're great. Avery James, re-follow up. Hey, hope you're doing well. Just following up on my previous message. Oh, this person already emailed me. Right? So other one, would it be okay if I shared our brochure? I don't know these people. I've never communicated with the first person. These things they look like just a quick message back and forth. They'll even fake create, prior messages between you and them below. Like if you scroll down and you go, oh, I have emailed this person, you respond and start talking to them. If you don't know them, if you don't know what they're talking about, do not reply, do not click a link, and report it as spam to your email provider. So what happens most of the time with these unsolicited text messages or emails or direct messages on other platforms is they're either going to be trying to just build a relationship of some type with you, friendly or professional or something. Just, they're not asking for anything. They're just going to, start engaging in back and forth to build your trust. That's really it. And then eventually, once you trust them, then the money thing will start to come up. The second thing is they're trying to get you to click a link, and that link is going to be one of a bunch of potential problems. So it could be a direct virus download to your computer. It could be there's one that when you click the link, it somehow reads all of your emails that you've sent out, and then it sends immediately the same email to everybody in your inbox, and it looks like it's from you saying, hey, for whatever reason, I've got a file you need to download, click this link, and it just perpetuates the scam. They might, the link click might download something to your computer that is watching your computer. And as you enter usernames and passwords on different websites, it's reporting that back to the scam artist so that they can then go log in and do what they need to do. Or not what they need to do, but what they want to do. So be very, very, very wary about clicking a link in a text message, in an email, in a direct message on any platform, because those links itself, the way it works is you click the link and it goes into an internet browser, and your internet browser, whether you use Chrome or whatever, has to then, it downloads information to your computer. So that link is you telling your computer, please download what's at this website. And by clicking it, you're giving your computer permission to download that thing. So links can be very dangerous because you don't know what it's downloading, and maybe not until it's too late. So be very wary about clicking links. The other things to be really wary about are irreversible payment methods. We talked about one, which is wire transfers. Outgoing wire transfers are a big part of the scam system. Crypto is a very hard thing to trace, almost impossible once you transfer crypto. And sometimes even once you think you've purchased crypto in your own account, if it's not with a registered broker dealer or custodian of some type, if it's on one of these other creative ones that isn't exactly registered and monitored, it may not even be in your account. It may not even be anything you can track back. So be very wary about crypto. Direct payment methods like Zelle and Venmo are incredibly convenient. Pay your landscaper or your pool guy or whoever it is, right? Or send your grandkids money. Like, it's very convenient. Just be wary that that's a one-way ticket, right? You can't ask Zelle or your bank to pull it back if it's fraud. You really want to confirm, double confirm that who you're sending to is somebody you know, is somebody you verified their information to receive, and that it's going in the right place. And gift cards. This is a weird one, but this happened to a friend of mine who owns a business. His secretary came in one morning. She's like, "Sorry, I'm late. It took me a while to get all those gift cards." And he's like, "What are you talking about?" And she's like, "I got all the gift cards. Here they are." And she starts handing him over a whole bunch of Apple gift cards. And he's like, "What is this?" And she's like, "It's you asked me to get these on the way in this morning." He's like, "What? No, I didn't." She's like, "Yeah, you sent me a text message." And she's like, "What are you talking about?" And she's like, "Here." Says, "Hey, Susie, can you stop by the Apple store and pick up, I don't know what it was, 20 Apple gift cards for $100 each or something." And I think the text, said send them to some other address, but she brought them to the office, thankfully. And so he's like, "Oh my gosh, I did not send you that text." And they looked a little bit further. His phone didn't have the text to her, and looked a little further, and oh yeah, somebody faked his text to her. Once gift card codes are shared, right? Once the code on the back is shared with the scammer, it's drained, it's gone. It's just moved into some account, who knows where, and it's not coming back. If you get an email or a text message from anybody, even if you think you know them, saying, "Hey, go buy me a bunch of gift cards and then send me the codes," it's a scam. Don't fall for that one. There are some ways, and I thought about, do I want to give you a list of these different software tools today, but I'm not going to, because I'm not an IT security expert. You will have to do your own due diligence. There are a lot of very good and legitimate apps or software tools you can put on your computer, your phone, your iPad that will help you legitimately protect yourself or protect your parents from scams. There are a few, there's only maybe 2 or 3 that I know of, that are specifically built for a adult child to help monitor and protect a parent's financial life. And they're really quite amazing at the features they offer and the tools that you can enable. Things like read-only access to transactions on all of their accounts, right? You can have a one-stop shop where you can see transactions, and it can even set up alerts for outgoing transfers to places they've never used before, or transfers over a certain dollar amount. All kinds of alerts can be set up for that. And you can watch for these things, or new accounts that are created, right? Because that's an issue. You can set them up so that you're not taking away any control. They still pay their bills, they still write their own checks, they still spend their own money, do whatever they want. So you're not taking any control, but you're getting the ability to watch and act if something happens. At least you can act quickly, right? You're not trying to act a month or a year or 5 years after the fact. So I recommend you look up some of these apps and software tools, do your due diligence, of course, and investigate. Can some of these things make life easier? Michelle Dexter, my partner, found or saw something on the news yesterday that a Mesa teenager actually invented an app to help protect people from these types of scam texts and things like that. And it's really cool. He saw this as a problem and created the app and has launched it. It's free. Again, not recommending any specific tools, but they are here to make life easier, because what are we going to, it's hard to monitor this stuff from afar for a parent. It's hard enough to monitor all of this for our own financial life sometimes. But look up those types of things, do your due diligence, talk with somebody who's an IT, who's knowledgeable about IT security, and pick one of those. If they have a cost, it's usually relatively inexpensive. It might be $5, $10, $20 a month for some of the more sophisticated pieces, but it may be something that could really save, a big nest egg. Um, I do want to address how these things are impacted by your estate plan. So at our firm, at Keystone Law Firm, we create estate plans for clients. We've been doing it for almost 20 years. And an estate plan is the whole package of legal documents, from your living trust to your power of attorneys, your healthcare directives, your will, all the pieces that go into that. The parts of that can be helpful are typically going to be your durable power of attorney for financial decisions and your living trust. Okay, those are the two sort of financial, the documents that address how financial assets and real estate are accessed and who can deal with them at different stages of life, who can write checks, who can move accounts, who can sell the house, and at what points in life. Where it can seem like there's protection, but then it is easy to actually revoke that protection, is in that stage of life where somebody is still managing and taking care of all their bills, but they are starting to have some cognitive decline, maybe even minor. And a lot of times what we see is the first stages of decline, the person is mostly in denial. They don't want to admit it. We all want our autonomy. We want to stay in control of our life. And so we just don't want to admit it, right? So there's this stage from when it first happens where some vulnerability sets in, and we don't admit it, which means this is really the risky stage of life. During that stage of life, even if they've named a power of attorney, if they haven't handed over the keys to the kingdom to the power of attorney doesn't have authority to do anything. Can't tell them no. You can't wire that money out. You can't open a new bank account, right? Doesn't have the authority to say no. Even more so during that stage is they have the authority to revoke that power of attorney. That can be the biggest problem, because if they revoke it, if they're convinced by an insider to revoke that power of attorney, then their real power of attorney, the person they really trust to help, now has no legal authority to do it. So the revocation of a power of attorney can be done at any time. It's through their own act. It's voluntary, and unless they've been declared incapacitated by a doctor, it can be done at any time. And that's a big risk. And then they can appoint themselves. The scammer can appoint themselves. The other thing is, we see a lot of people who, we've seen the scams, and I've talked about them with the joint account issue. There's also risk in just putting an adult child or somebody that you trust as a joint owner on your account, there's a big risk with that. And it's not just from being taken advantage of. It could be if they get in a lawsuit, they get a car accident, or they get in a divorce, that account is now going to be subject to all of their financial problems. So putting them on as joint doesn't solve the issue. It's not that simple. You want to think these things through. The better way to do this is to have your trust set up in a way that your successor trustee, when you're alive and well, when you've been able to think things through clearly, and it's not a snap new decision, that somebody's just kind of stepping in to try to help. If it's really been your decision, this person I can trust, and they've proven it over years, you want your trust to be able to have a mechanism for them to step in and help, even if you can't necessarily say you want the help. And that can be triggered either by a doctor's letter, or it can be triggered by the successor trustee themselves. If you trust them to manage your money, we should trust them to be able to say, I need to step in and help. You can also, we have a number of clients do this. I think this is a great idea. Some point where we're just getting older and I'm not able to think as quickly, and I notice I'm forgetting some simple things. It's that middle stage. I'm not yet incapacitated. I want to live my life still, right? But I'm starting to realize things are getting a little harder. When that happens, if we trust that person implicitly, let's get them on now as co-trustee. And you just appoint them, poof, and they go to the bank and they say, okay, I'm co-trustee now. What they can do at the bank is at least some banks, is they can set up parameters that require either 2 signatures for amounts over a certain dollar amount. They can require 2 signatures for outgoing wires. They can require all kinds of things like that. And that puts a good little circuit breaker on if somebody tries to take you to the bank and convince you to do something that really you don't want to do. And what's good about a trust versus an individual bank account is that a trust account at a banks have a little bit more, for some reason, they have a little bit more, what's the word? It's almost like they scrutinize them a little bit more because it's a trust. And I don't know exactly why, but banks sort of evaluate what's happening with a trust a little more closely than what's happening with individual accounts. And so if somebody tries to walk in and convince you to change your trust account to do all kinds of things you don't really want to do, banks are typically going to, I hope, put a little bit higher standard of hey, what's happening? Why are you doing this? Who's the successor trustee? We really need them here, etc. And if you've already got them on as co-trustee, it's going to be mandatory. So trust really can give you a little bit more protection at your bank, at your investments, your brokerage accounts, things like that. With real estate is it's a new area for scam artists, that they are taking advantage of things. They're having fake deed transfers signed, notarized, recorded. They're doing all kinds of things. Maricopa County has a title watch you can sign up for that's free, and anything that's recorded under your name you get an immediate email on. Doesn't prevent anything from happening, doesn't prevent them from scamming you, but at least you know about it immediately if you sign up for that free title watch. And then again, having a piece of real estate owned in your individual name or joint with you and your spouse is again slightly different than owning it in your trust name, because in your trust name, the deed to transfer it to somebody else has to be signed by the currently acting trustee. And if you've become the co-trustee and they try to just transfer it without your signature as co-trustee, it's a lot more evidence that it was fraud. And so getting that deed declared invalid is going to have a lot more support in your favor. So always recommend a trust for purposes of avoiding probate, but it also acts as another layer of protection for this stuff. So when you think about the stuff and you think, okay, I'm going to talk to my parents. We need to start putting this stuff in place. It can be hard. And so I wanted to give you a couple talking points on how to maybe bring this up. Don't, some people have a completely open relationship. You can just bring it up and say, hey, mom, dad, we need to do this. And, there's no offense taken. They don't feel like you're taking away their autonomy. They're just like, oh, good. Yes, thank you. If that's not the case, what I would do is I'd recommend like pointing the finger at the enemy, pointing the finger at the enemy. Like there are a lot of new AI things that are getting really good. I mean, they can do voice cloning now. You can get a call from somebody and it can sound exactly like the person but it's a robot because they have AI tools now that can listen to something of your voice somewhere and then sound like you, have your same cadence, have your same tone, an accent, whatever. And then now listening to a voice that we think is familiar isn't even reliable. Be like, and or you can just say, I just saw this webinar. There's a whole lot more scam things out there. We really need to review and see, that you've got everything set up in a protected way. And you can talk about the co-trustee thing. I would at least plant that seed. It's one of the best ways to protect against this stuff. This is something that might be hard to implement and remember in practice, because I was thinking about this as one of the security recommendations out there, because one of the scams, because they can now clone your voices, in the middle of the day, grandma gets a phone call. It sounds like it's granddaughter who lives in another state. She goes, oh my gosh, grandma, whatever. I got arrested. I got a ticket. I got something. And I just need you to Venmo me some money. I need you to wire me some money. It's an emergency, right? Like, hurry, I need it right now for some reason. And you could, with each of the people in your family say, hey, look, this scam stuff is real. We're going to establish a safe word, the security word, whatever you want to call it, that helps you identify each other in that call, right? If you get one of those calls, you could say, oh, Susie, I'm so sorry going through that. Let me make sure. Yep. Okay. I'll take care of it. Like, what's our family security word? And they'll go, I don't know, right? Or give you something that doesn't work. Then you go, okay, this is a scam. You hang up. All of the other things that I recommend about putting some type of view or read-only access on parents' accounts can be really important and really helpful for you to be able to see if there's suspicious transactions going out. And then look at if you have an old trust, look at it. Does it allow for a co-trustee to be appointed? Because that's one of the biggest tools. Does it allow a successor trustee to step in and help immediately while you're alive? Those are really key factors that need to be in trusts nowadays. Does it allow your trustee to have access to your digital assets, things like email and crypto and your online accounts? Because those things are usually where the scam is going to be happening. I did find, as part of my research on this, that last year the United States Senate Committee on Aging actually put together a really good report. They call it a report, but honestly, it's a pretty user-friendly book on all of these types of things, the types of scams out there, how to protect yourself against them, some of the statistics about it, and even the state ranking and where states are as far as reported fraud. Arizona, unfortunately, is in one of the higher categories. If you want that, happy to send it to you. You could probably even Google it and find it online. Just send me a chat message, just say you'd like it, and I'll make sure it gets emailed out to you after the webinar today. And that's all the content I had. The steps that we take to review an old trust, just so you know, the first thing we do is we schedule a quick phone call. There's no cost to it. It's with our intake team, and we just talk about, how old is your trust? Where's it from? What are the things you're concerned about? And see if it's time to update. And if it is, they'll, talk to you about what that looks like, what our process is, what our fees are, how we do that. We amend old documents almost always, or if you need new ones, we create brand new ones. It's usually a 3-step process for us. We finish it in about 6 to 8 weeks. Once you're done with that, then we tell you what to do at the bank and wherever else you have financial business, so that you know what to do at the bank to tell them, my new document, I have a co-trustee or successor trustee or whatever it is, so that they know how to record things inside their systems. If you want to schedule that free call, I dropped the link there in the chat. You click it, calendar's right there. Just find a time that works, book it, and Alexis will be who calls you at that time to do that first free phone call. That is all the content I had for today. I do want to share with you guys the upcoming events. So let me post that if you are looking for additional topics. Is going to be right there. And then why not give you our prior ones on our YouTube page. So you can click those links. These are real links, right? You're inside a secure webinar. You know who I am. I'm giving you those links. They're not going to take you anywhere bad. They're going to take you somewhere good. Schedule that first phone call, register for an upcoming event, or look at our prior recordings. I don't see any questions coming in on the chat system. Let me, real quick, I'll flip the opportunity for you to turn on your microphone. If you have a question, you're welcome to do that. I'll hang out here for another couple of minutes. Thank you guys for attending. This was the first time I've done a topic like this, so I appreciate your attendance here. Does anybody have any questions?
Francisco, I don't have a question, but I just think that it's so important that people recognize that this stuff is moving quicker than most of us can even imagine what the next scam is going to be. So there is a lot to trusting your instincts, to verifying the information independently, not utilizing the information that they're giving you, but the information that, when you signed up with Verizon, who did you contact? Did you go into a location? Maybe you're following up by doing some of those things, because these scammers are really tricky. And to your point, sometimes it's family and sometimes it's strangers. And so you really have to keep your spidey senses up, so to speak. It's just important.
It is. It is. We see it a lot just because we have perspective on a lot of clients and people in the community. So
yeah,
go ahead.
Our experience has been loneliness is a funny thing. Our aging parents get lonely. Somebody shows some interest in them. It's very easy sometimes for those doors to be open. And so we definitely want to make sure that people are aware of some of those things to look for and be paying attention to. So thank you so much for providing this information today. It's been great, and I hope that it will help a lot of people.
Yeah, thanks, Michelle. Me too. Anybody else have any other questions, thoughts? If not, thank you everybody for coming, and we will see you next time. Have a great day.